First things first, I'm Jenna Wolfe. That is the Hall of Famer Cris Carter. That is Nick Wright.
Cece, what do I say? Every decision we've ever made in our entire lives have led us to this moment right now.
Well, why do you ask me then? That's supposed to be mine.
I didn't know if you were ready yet.
You're literally already fighting.
I apologize. I'm so excited. I did not go to sleep last night, watch the baseball games, the basketball games. There's so much going on. Such a good day to do this.
There's nothing I want more than you on no sleep. Okay. It's going to be an amazing 3 hours. It's going to be fantastic. All right, let's start with baseball. The Yankees are doing that thing they do when they're down in a series. You know, they win. Down 4-0 last night. They rallied to beat the Astros and even up the series at 2 games apiece. Aaron Judge getting the Yankees on the board with a home run in the 7th, tying up the game with an RBI double in the 8th. All rise for the Judge after this game.
I've been in that situation 1,000 times, but you know, the dream's not the same as the reality. That being out there with that crowd and that atmosphere, and it was unbelievable.
It's such a short sample size that, you know, I think our guys have really done a good job not getting caught up in it.
Casual Joe Girardi just hanging out, like laying down on the desk. He's like, you know, I was pontificating.
2 weeks ago, we were getting ready to lay you on the side of the street.
Basically. Yes. All right, Cece, what was your biggest takeaway from this game last night?
There's a number of things that you can go to with the game, but living here in New York, I got to go to what people talk about the crowd. We had the option of going to the game. Given our hours, though, we decided, you know, better off watching this one on television. But the crowd and getting behind this team. This year, the Yankees led the American League with 51 home wins. You think sometime going from the old Yankee Stadium to the new Yankee Stadium, we know the home field advantage they had there, but there's nothing like the Yankees being successful in New York. The electricity that's in the city, that's in the people, and how was you able to see that last night magnified? Because they were down. It was easy for the crowd just to be a normal playoff crowd. They've seen the Yankees do this a long time. You know, they won. They came back in the Cleveland series. That was good enough. It's a young team. They're really about a year or two away from being great. But no, the inspiration of the crowd, the players felt that, which led to a great comeback, and which leads us to today. And the series is tied up 2-2. This is an unbelievable series.
And now the pressure is squarely sitting on the chests of the Houston Astros. And I don't know how much a city's pressure translates to the individual teams, but Houston is a underrated, tortured sports town. For the fact that the Houston Texans, when they were the Oilers, blew the biggest playoff lead ever, and since then have seemingly never recovered as a franchise. The Houston Rockets blowing a 3-1 lead not that long ago. The Houston Rockets, additionally, last year, the way their season ended in total disarray in a game that Kawhi Leonard didn't even play in. The Houston Astros, a few years ago, in the ALDS, blowing a 4-run, 8th-inning lead in a clinching game. Yesterday was supposed to be the obvious next step for the Astros to get to one game from the World Series. You remember this was the team Sports Illustrated coordinated as. Congrats to the 2017 World Series champs 4 years ago. Well, we're in 2017, and it looked like that's the way it was going. And then that magical 7th and 8th innings where nobody could have, even given how great the Yankees have been coming back and what a great story they've been in the wild card game, then the 3 straight must-wins in the ALDS. Nobody could have seen them coming back 4 down in the bottom of the 7th inning against this team.
And Jenna, we've been talking for the last couple of weeks about New York City. You've been a resident here a lot longer than us. And you brought up the point, this city craves a superstar. And I think in the last 2 days, they have the star that they want.
In addition to craving a superstar, they crave a hero. Right? This is what the city wants, and they wanted they wanted Odell Beckham to be their hero to save this team. You know, they loved Patrick Ewing as their hero.
They thought Melo was going to be that guy.
Yes, they loved Mike Richter. Like, they love all these guys to be their hero. And now we saw the wave leave, like this last superhero wave on the New York Yankees with Jeter and Mariano Rivera and A-Rod. They all left, and now this is, like you said, a young team coming up. Aaron Judge has given this city something electrifying, right? So a great first half. A tough 2 months there, but then he really sort of brought it back up in the last month. And now when And the New York City fans are tough. Like, New York City fans could have gotten on this guy very easily.
Yes.
You know, like, first full year, you know, he's not doing much. Like, should he be here or not? But they didn't. Like, they don't get down on him. They keep supporting this guy because they want to so badly. So when he has a night like he did last night, 2 for 3, 2 RBIs, in a game they really, really wanted to win, you could see how much and how electrifying it is when that entire stadium, when this city is behind them. That's what the Yankees really want.
And people mention Aaron Judge in the same breath that they did the captain, Derek Jeter. Now, Derek Jeter is one of my favorite athletes all time. He set an amazing example, not only on the field, but off the field. Now, they say Aaron Judge is that type of person, all right? He has everything, but he hadn't had Jeter moments in the postseason. Because with the Yankees, you can have a record-breaking regular season.
You can hit the 52 home runs.
Yeah. It's about the postseason. In the last 2 days, not only did his characteristics, as far as off the field, his interviews, how he treats his teammates, his overall approach to baseball, did it live up to the captain? But now, the last 2 days, Nick, on the diamond, he's lived up to it and more.
And this is, to me, this is the great thing about playoff baseball. Like, CC, you and I, we're not going to mislead the audience. During the regular season, like, I am a diehard football fan. I'm a diehard NBA fan. Regular season baseball, I root for my hometown Kansas City Royals. I'll watch the games, but I am not living and dying pitch by pitch. But once the playoffs start, it's a different animal, and I think Judge is the perfect example of it. Because I think what happened last night, you can directly draw a line to something that happened the night before. So if we Aaron Judge going into the game 3 was 1 for his last 27 with 19 strikeouts. He starts game 3 with a strikeout you see right there. His next at bat, that pitch. That's a full count. That could be another strikeout. He's with maybe 1 for 20 or 1 for 30. It ends up being a walk.
Thank God he's 6'7".
What happens to the next at bat? He takes a few pitches because he has the confidence from the walk, and it results in that home run. Now, they didn't necessarily have to have that home run. They're going to win that game anyway, but it gets him back on track. Yesterday, he's back on track. He hits that home run. That gets him on the board, and then you'll see later in the game, I know Sanchez had the hit that gave them the lead, but Aaron Judge had the hit that almost gave him the lead when it almost was a home run. There was almost a Jeffrey Myers situation. That's the amazing thing about baseball. I think everything we saw from Judge yesterday, goes back to that one pitch, full count, borderline. Could have been another strikeout.
Yes.
Could have been the continued slump. Steady draws the walk. The next at bat, he hits the home run. Now, all of a sudden, we have a series again.
Patience at the plate, was that the key for Aaron Judge yesterday?
Well, that's kind of been his MO. Like, even though he has struck out a lot, but he's taken a lot of pitches. He's taken it deep into the count, and eventually his mechanics are going to be able to catch up with the pitches. It's a great testament to sticking to your fundamentals, remaining patient. Your opportunity will come, and that's what he pounced on 2 games ago. And
not giving him too much time to think about it, because they go at it again in a couple of 10 and a half hours, like we talked about yesterday, with Tamaka on the hill and Dallas Keuchels going again.
Yeah,
so
the Yankees are 5-0 at home.
They're and they played
in the playoffs. Yes.
Well, and while we're talking about Judge and the stadium, which Jeff Passan from Yahoo Sports wrote a great article this morning. I recommend everyone read it about the electricity of Yankee Stadium. Low-key, the storyline here isn't Judge. It's not the stadium. It's what the Yankee pitching has done to the Astros bats.
Yeah.
Yes.
I know that the Astros scored 4 runs yesterday. They did it on 3 hits. There was walks. There was catcher's interference. They have averaged 4.5 hits a game this series. They've averaged just over 2 runs a game this series. CC, this is the best offense in baseball this year.
Yes.
Yankee pitching for 4 games has absolutely shut down.
Welcome back to First Things First. NBA opening night. Celtics in Cleveland. The first quarter was marred by Gordon Hayward's graphic ankle injury. And trust me, the word graphic is used lightly. It was officially a dislocated ankle and a fractured tibia. But it was obviously jarring for the other players on the court to even look at. Gordon Hayward will have surgery later today. Cavs went on to win a close one, 102-99. Afterwards, LeBron talked about Hayward's injury.
You know, my thoughts and prayers go out to Gordon and his family. Hope for a speedy recovery, healthy recovery. I've seen a couple injuries like that in my lifetime. I've seen Paul George when it happened to Paul. I was watching the game with Sean Livingston and when he was with the Clippers, and I was watching NCAA basketball with Kevin Ware when he was at Louisville, and those are the injuries that you never see coming. You never want to happen, no matter who it is, no matter what the stature, no matter how much competitive nature that you have. It was just very unfortunate.
So, guys, we know that injuries are part of the game. It's part of what you sign up for when you become a professional athlete. But as a pro athlete, CC, I'll ask you, how do you get yourself to move past it and keep performing at the level you're supposed to perform at in the middle of a game when you see one of your teammates or someone you know go down right in front of you like that?
It's the thing that we all don't want. But it's also the reality that we all know that could be our fate. I mean, it's a simple play. He goes to the basket, goes out to the three-point line, decides to go back door, getting ready to catch an alley-oop. But he's probably jumped like that a million times.
Yeah. Right. Without thinking about it.
I mean, a million times. And when you see it done in such a simple way, it brings you back to the reality of, like, what you have and what you're doing is really special. And that could be you. There's no guy on the court or on the field when these things happen, it's like, no, that couldn't happen to me. So it's like all of a sudden, regardless of the competition, we become one fraternity.
Yeah.
And like we realize, Gordon Hayward, he's married. Imagine what his wife was feeling last night. What about his mom and dad?
Yeah.
If his kids are old enough to see that. Like, these are all the things that it's no Boston and Cleveland then. It's about being an athlete, and you're able to do this. God has given you ability to do it at a high level, and it's only going to be for a short period of time. And it's beyond the competition. We don't want to see someone hurt like this. Not only miss the game, gonna miss the season, but this could alter his career.
How do you agreed? I'm not discounting that. I feel terribly for Gordon, and I feel as a diehard basketball fan, I feel awful for Celtics fans. I know that Hayward is the person we should focus on, but this is such a bummer. They were so excited about this season. The best team theoretically they've had in a very long time. Legitimate aspirations to make the finals. And it goes away after 5 minutes.
Except for the fact that somehow this team, and getting back to your point, was able to rally and keep it pretty close to give them a little bit of hope that it's still salvageable.
They know deep down that you can't lose one of your two best players when you were already going to be an underdog in the East and then win the East. They can still have a salvageable season, but I don't want to discount that stuff. But I want to ask you a question before we talk about something else. How do they compartmentalize it, though? Because you're right. Everything you said, that these guys know it could be them.
Yes.
They're thinking about the families. These guys very often know each other's families. Once he was stretchered off, within 90 seconds, guys are back hitting jump shots.
Right, and it's a lot harder, Nick, for basketball players because this is not an injury that we're typically going to see on the basketball court. This is an explosive injury, and typically we're going to see it in the NFL. And the NFL players, being through college, most of them come through major college programs, we've seen more injuries like that. LeBron recalled the 3 or 4 times that he's seen it happen. And it was amazing to me how he recalled every instance where he was, what he was doing. The Paul George thing, he was with USA Basketball, so he was there. The time he recalled watching things like that on TV.
Sean Livingston,
yes,
Kevin Ware.
I've probably seen this happen maybe 15 to 20 times because of being at Ohio State and being in the NFL. Like, I've seen this happen more. How do we do it? I don't know. Like, I really don't. Each time is very, very different. And for me, my experience, not only have I seen that type of injury, I happened to be at an NFL practice where an NFL player died. My teammate, Corey Stringer. All right, he was number 77. I was number 80. We dressed right next to each other. Went to the field, a normal day of training camp, and he passed away. Now, this is totally different. How do we compartmentalize it as an athlete? I don't know how we do it, but what they did last night, it's very, very hard to do. And as an athlete, you don't think the guy's career is going to be over. What you think is, well, we just lost another player. They're going to put someone else in. And you put that out of your mind until after the game.
This is an underrated skill pro athletes have. I remember when I was doing radio in Houston, there was something going on in my personal life for about 2 weeks that was, my mind was there at all times. It was probably the worst 2 weeks of radio I've ever done. It was, I wasn't mailing it on purpose, but I had what I considered a real life, more important situation. And like, I still got to show up for work, but I'm not doing the prep I normally do. Isaiah Thomas's sister dies suddenly.
Yes.
And he's on the court performing at a high level. You guys, Corey Stringer passes away.
Yes.
You guys didn't cancel our training camp.
No.
You guys, the mental toughness of these folks in professional athletics is one of their most underrated assets compared to just regular people.
Can I throw something else out there? I think in addition to that, and correct me if I'm wrong, for you guys, the court, the field, the arena is almost a safe haven, right? It's a place where you go where you don't have to worry about anything else. You can block everything else out. You can do the thing you were born to do. You can exercise the gift that you have, and maybe that's the place that you go to escape. And it's assumed that for the rest of us regular people, it's hard for us to focus on work in air quotes because of everything else going on. But for you, that's not work. That's your everything.
And most of the time, people in the normal workplace, they don't have teammates. They don't have, you saw Boston, you saw them huddle up. And the guys, they talk to each other. They have a heart-to-heart. Now, listen, man, we got a job to do. What would Gordon want us to do? All right? Let's go out there and try to win this game, because that would have been a hell of a message sent to Cleveland. Right. I mean, after this horrific injury, we're still good enough to beat you. So I think that athletes being on a team, it really helps because you've set one goal and you see other people going about their job that you're like, I don't want to let that guy down. I don't want to let her down. So you go about it as a team. It's very hard, and especially to do it at a high level.
All right, Nick, but let's switch ever so gently to the basketball side of this. There was a very good season opening game last night between the two teams that everybody was dying to see. There were so many storylines in this one. And despite Gordon Hayward's injury, it came down to the end. This was a very
came back
close
from down
game.
18. They were clearly, it did take them a moment to gather themselves after Hayward's injury. The Cavs went on a run. The Celtics seemed pretty stunned. But I told you yesterday about how much respect I have for Brad Stevens. Brad Stevens at halftime in the locker room got him to regroup. The Cavs maybe relaxed a little bit, and all of a sudden, we've got the Celtics took the lead by the end of the third quarter. They didn't have the lead at the end, but they had taken the lead within the third quarter, and we had a good game in the fourth quarter. What we saw yesterday from a basketball perspective was the continuation of the longest prime of any basketball player's career ever. LeBron James entered his prime his second year in this league. His second year in the league, he averaged 27, 7, and 7. His career averages are 27, 7, and 7. So he became the player he is from all intents and purposes in year 2. This was year 15, and he gave you 29, 16, and 9. LeBron's prime now, CeCe, is 14 years. That is longer than Magic's career.
No training camp.
That is longer than Larry Bird's career. That is longer than Michael Jordan played with the Chicago Bulls, his entire career except for the Wizards. Year 14 of his prime is what we saw last night, and you mentioned no training camp. He said he's doing it out of shape.
Welcome back. We're now joined by Fox NFL analyst Mark Schlereth. Hey, Mark, nice to see you. I'm sure you probably have 1,000 injury stories you could share as well from your time in the trenches. We will spare you all 1,000 of them, but...
Good to see you,
nice to see you. Thanks for being here. All right, follow me for a second. Riddle me this. First, Ezekiel Elliott was suspended. Then he wasn't. Then it seemed like he was. Then he wasn't. Then he was. Then he wasn't. Couple of wases, some wasn'ts. And then just when we thought Zeke would begin the suspension for his domestic abuse allegation, we were wrong. Zeke will be back on the field this Sunday versus the 49ers and next Sunday's game versus Washington after a judge granted him a temporary restraining order blocking the suspension. What I needed was an overhead projector to make sure you knew something was and then something wasn't again. Stink, I start with you. Avoiding all the legalese, because let's do that. Let's just talk purely football. How important are the next 2 games for the Dallas Cowboys?
Well, I mean, obviously, they're very important. Every game in the NFL, that's what makes the NFL so great. It's 16 games. They're all very important. He's got one division game in there. And this is where we had talked about before this season started. If you're going to get suspended suspended eventually, and you are, eventually you're going to miss time, there was only one divisional game in the first 6 games that he would have played, and that was against the Giants opening weekend. Now you're going to get into the meat of your schedule, the meat of your divisional rivals. You're going to play the Washington Redskins in these 2 games that you've had this stay. So, I mean, the majority of what's coming down the pike, if in fact he does get suspended, he may be able to postpone this until next season. He may be able to play this legal game, but he's very important because they have not hit their stride, especially running the ball. What we all talk about with the Cowboys is possess the ball, run the ball, open up the play action, run the zone read stuff with your quarterback. He's very pivotal in that.
Wait, Mark, if you know that, and Cece, you know that, and you know that, Nick, that it would have been better off for him to just do this and get it over with, looking at their schedule, being very strategic about where everyone is, especially if you all agree that he's going to be suspended anyway, why wouldn't Jerry Jones say, I'd rather you just take the suspension?
Because he doesn't agree he's going to be suspended eventually.
But how do we all know he's definitely going to get suspended?
He's adamant he didn't do this. Now, from things I've read, from people I've talked to, from talking to Cece, I believe he did do this. I believe the public maybe doesn't even know the full scope of what he did. I believe Ezekiel Elliott deserves a 6-game suspension under the current rules as far as the personal conduct policy. I believe all those things. But what Zeke has not, if Zeke's line on this was, listen, what I did was a mistake. I didn't do as much as what's being alleged. I think the penalty is a little too harsh, but I deserve a penalty. And that then maybe you can work backwards from there to, all right, man, then just take your medicine. But his line appears to be, I should be exonerated. Yes. I did nothing. Yes. And if that's the case, then you can't, you're not going to plea bargain to a better sentence.
But Jerry Jones can.
No, but Jerry's going to, Cece, tell me if I'm wrong.
Jerry's going to support the process.
Jerry's going to support his player.
He's always supported his players. For 30 years, he's got a track record. Like, Jerry is a player's owner to their detriment. It's not always good because there's certain things, and not to get into the technicalities of the case and everything, but I just know when the league sends you a letter, why would I know this? Because I've been suspended before. When you get that certified letter, they're not doing this for posturing. They're not doing this for PR. Like, we have seen what the league will do. Who is the example? Let's go to Foxborough. Tom Brady. Now, when the Tom Brady investigation, I was on TV. We was at a certain place. Stink, you'll remember this. I got all kind of flack because I said Tom Brady will serve that suspension. Oh, they're going to fight this. He denies it. Oh, he got railroaded. Okay. I said, no problem. The league does not send you that certified letter just to be sending it to you. Right. I believe that Zeke will serve this suspension. There is no good time, all right? And the reason why, to answer your question, Zeke will right now will say he didn't do anything. All right? So that's the reason why they keep appealing it. There is never a good time in the NFL to miss 6 games. Okay. But the more you go into the season, the less games you have to recover. So if you look at it hypothetically, yes, he would have been better off serving the suspension to start the season just like Tom Brady. Now, Tom Brady also had Bill Belichick and 2 backup quarterbacks that got them to 3-1 under that 4-game suspension.
All right, let's get it back to actual football here. So if it is the next 2 games that he's going to play and then miss a 6-game stretch, where do the Cowboys stand?
Well, go ahead, Mark.
You go.
Here's where they stand if they don't win the next 2. They're finished. They're 2-3. They're with or without Zeke. They're finished if they don't win the next 2. They're winnable games, even though they're road games. At San Francisco, that's been one of the worst teams in the league. Now, I will say, San Francisco's last 5 losses, all by 3 points or less. So they've been close games that they have been able to finish. They're competitive. They're not the Browns this year. And then at Washington, Washington has shown some very high highs and some pretty low lows. So we'll see how they do there. But they have to go 2-0 in that stretch to get to 4-3 to have any chance. I just wonder, how do you game plan? How does this affect the team that, all right, Zeke's going to miss the first 6 weeks of the year? No, he's not. We're going to have him. No, now Zeke is out. It's official. He's out for the San Francisco game. Nope. Haven't the coaches already started that game plan? Like, haven't the coaches already started to talk? They
started the game plan on Monday.
Right.
The game plan is installed in the coach's office on Tuesday. Today is Wednesday. Wednesday morning is when the game plan is presented to the players. So with Zeke and his history, it's easy to come up with the alternative game plan. Plus, they also knew that there was an appeal possibility. What's harder to come up with is when Zeke is gone, okay? Because they know what they want to be when Zeke is there. So these next, after Zeke is gone, those are the harder game plans. It's not hard for them to come up with a game plan for this week's game.
The game plan, it is offensively, it is what it is. I mean, you run a half a dozen running plays. Now, there's some that Alfred Morris runs better, and there's some that Zeke Elliott runs better. But the bottom line is you run 6 things. You do it out of different personnel groups with different window shades, right? You'd have different motions in different groups, and you have, the 11 personnel, and then you have 13, and then you have 12 personnel, and then you move into 22 personnel. And you run the exact same plays. It just looks different, right? It's like, look at all this window dressing. Bam, we're just going to hit it, and that's what we do. So it's not as complicated as we like to make it sound. Those guys will run in there and go, oh, we're running that play? All right, sounds good to me. And they'll run that play.
It'd be totally different if the quarterback was going to be suspended.
Right.
Then they would have to be a total different game plan.
It doesn't sound like anyone is too concerned that if you're gonna give yourself another 2 games and then be suspended, but let's face it, no one really knows for sure that these are still doable games and they can stay in this.
And I think the San Francisco game was going to be doable without him, which is why, to get to your original point, they're 2-3 with Zeke. Given how those games went, I'm pretty confident they'd have been 2-3 without him. Those 2 games they won, they won safely enough, and those 3 games they lost, they weren't going to be better if Zeke wasn't out there. What kills them is what now the suspension starts. When the suspension is now scheduled to start, here's what they got. Oh, they play the Chiefs. Okay, then they play the Falcons. Then they play Philly. Then a slight respite against the Chargers. Then Washington, and then the Giants. So, like, those first 3 games out of the suspension, what we thought, CC, was suspension starts this week. You have 2 games to get used to not having Zeke. San Francisco, I don't want to call it a layup, but it's an easier game. Washington, we'll see. And then you have 2 games to get ready before you play KC, Atlanta, Philly. Now the first 3 games of the suspension, KC, Atlanta, Philly.
Yeah.
Let me give you the nightmare scenario, all right? They have filed an appeal. Zeke plays the next 2 weeks. The appeal is stayed until the rest of the season. They don't make the playoffs this year with Zeke. And then next year, he gets suspended for the first 6 games of the season. Then they don't make the playoffs next year. So you've taken 2 years out of Dak and Zeke's career, out of their window. Remember 13-3? So now we got 3 years because they lost that rookie year, which was a phenomenal year. So that's the scenario that is a potential if we keep going with this appeals route.
We now welcome in Ray Lewis. Hey, Ray, thanks for being here.
Good to see you guys.
How you doing?
I'm good.
This is our favorite time of the year, Ray, because we have the end of baseball, which is the fun part. We have a little bit of basketball, but we're right in the heart and the meat of football. Are you a fan of all 3 as well?
I am. I'm not as big a fan in baseball, but I'm a fan of basketball starting up now, and football is getting to where it becomes important now.
It's getting there. All right, let's talk some football, though. Packers are moving forward with quarterback Brett Hundley. But that doesn't mean they're ready to forget Viking linebacker Aaron Barr's hit that left Aaron Rodgers with a broken collarbone. Head coach Mike McCarthy was asked if the hit was dirty. Take a listen.
I didn't like the hit. I had a chance to watch it last night on the plane. He's out of the pocket. He's clearly expecting to get hit. But to pin him to the ground like that, I felt it was an illegal act. And to sit here and lose any of your players on something like that, it doesn't feel very good. So, I didn't like the hit. It's unnecessary, legal, wherever you want to put it at, but it was totally unnecessary in my opinion.
All right, Ray, let's start with you. Was this a dirty hit by Anthony?
You know what? I think in any head coach who has a player like Aaron Rodgers, when that happens, it's going to always be a bad play, right? But when you think about it from a defensive perspective, Anthony didn't personally drive him into the ground and lay on him. And, there's many times in my career where you had the opportunity to do that.
Right.
He didn't do that right there. And actually, if he done a real favor by rolling off, because if you really wanted somebody to feel that, you land on him.
Ray, what is the technique coming from the backside, what guys have typically done through the years?
Yeah, the number one, that's what makes that so good. Is that what Anthony Barr did right there? Is that he came from the backside, what we were all taught, and the quarterback is running away from you. You catch up to him from the backside and run through his shoulder. But I'm telling you, you see this kid. One of the things he done, if you go back and watch this play, for him to roll off Aaron Rodgers right there, that stops a lot of that. Now, whatever was going to happen on that play with Aaron, as you saw him trying to pull his arm out before he fell, that's a totally different conversation. But from a defense,
the ground caused it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's not him causing that. That's turf. That's what it is. And that's this kid, Aaron Rodgers, landed on a bad spot on his shoulder.
Right. What we see happening typically, the defender, especially the quarterback's passing arm, when he hits him around the backside, what he does is, right, I'm going to use his example. He pulls his arm down, which extends the collarbone, and then he pounces on him. All right. Now, what Barr did, he went over top of him, and he didn't pull his arm. But this is the way you separate a guy's shoulder, or you cause him to fracture his clavicle, which I've had a fractured clavicle. Todd Light tackled me by my arms when I was trying to dive catch me. He pulled my arm down, landed on my clavicle, broke it. And these type of plays happen. The only problem with Coach McCarthy is he knows the end result. Like, if he would have thought this play was going to happen during the game, he'd be like, okay, Aaron's going to come out of that one.
Right.
But Anthony Barr's, he's at a huge disadvantage. Aaron Rodgers could have easily pump faked that ball.
Like he always does.
If he pump fakes it, then what's Anthony Barr supposed to do? Hold up, two-hand touch? Like, you cannot take hitting out of football.
And that's the one thing. So you take this play, 2003, I separated my shoulder in Cleveland. This exact same way, tore my labrum and everything. And it was nobody's fault. But I landed on over a receiver and just came down, and it just pinned me into the ground. So when you think about what Aaron is doing, and that's the same thing what he's saying, we're taught to grab that backside arm. Because if you don't grab that backside arm, magicians like Aaron Rodgers, they get out of that. And we saw it many a times for him get out of that. And then we go back to the film room, and your defensive coordinator says, why didn't you finish the play?
Ben Roethlisberger came out this week and said it wasn't a dirty play. And he's the perfect quarterback to say it, because Ben knows better than anybody that if you don't make sure the quarterback gets to the ground, he might not get to the ground.
Ben has made a career out of, let me throw it again.
Yeah, you ain't got to remind me of those.
Sorry.
Not quite as good a career as you, okay? But that was his MO.
Here's the thing. For people saying that that's a dirty play or it should have been flagged, if you believe that, you must also believe they need to simply make it two-hand touch on the quarterback.
Okay, so is this the conversation we're having? Are we at the point where we are once again making a new rule to protect the quarterback?
The only way to make it further, CC, sorry to interrupt, the only way to take it further, because you already can't hit him high. You can't hit him low. Rodgers was out of the pocket. He didn't lay on him. I wasn't being hyperbolic when I said you would have to argue it should simply be on the quarterback, two-hand touch, and he's down. And maybe some people, maybe some people at Park Avenue that are worried, the NFL offices, maybe they'd rather that, because nobody is better off with Aaron Rodgers being out for the year. Not football fans, only the Vikings, Lions, and Bears are better off with Aaron Rodgers being out for the year, and even those guys don't like to see their guy get hurt. But there's no other way to protect the quarterbacks. You can't protect them more than you are.
Well, before we got to the era we're at, you could hit him low. You could come in and hit the quarterback low. You could hit him chest, under his chin, all the way down to his toes. Then you know what happened? Something happened up in Foxborough. Kansas City Chief crawling on the ground, hits Tom Brady on his knee. People swear it was a cheap shot. That's nor here nor there. But you know what Park Avenue did then?
Right, they changed the rules.
They changed the rules. And let me tell you what's going on right now. There is no conversation at Park Avenue examining this hit right here. Can we do anything to be able to help Aaron Rodgers out? Also, you mentioned it before. He left the pocket. The NFL lets you know. When you leave the pocket,
it's free game.
Hey, man, you just a regular person. You're a regular citizen. You ain't got all your privileged rights and everything. If you want to be privileged, you better stay in the pocket.
Are there no more rungs that Park Avenue can leap up to as far as protecting their quarterback? There's a lot of things you can't do anymore based on hits that quarterbacks have taken. Are we at, is this where it's going to be now?
Based off that one play, there's absolutely nothing Park can do.
Okay.
They just can't. I'm with you. If you do that, we're going to have to change the game of football. Because Look, if you watch the league, every game you watch, you always watch a quarterback. Looks like I'm going to go out of bounds, stay in bounds. Looks like I'm going to throw it. So now you play these tricks, and then when they do it, you're like, oh, my gosh, that's awesome. He just tricked him and all this. But then as a defender, when you finish that play, you're wrong.
That out-of-bounds, inbounds thing is that something that's a slightly different discussion. That's something the league's got to look at. Because what you have quarterbacks that know that if you hit the quarterback, even when he's still in bounds, if you hit him hard enough when he's on the sideline, it's going to be 15. So what quarterbacks have started to do is pretend they're going to go out of bounds.
And then stay in
guys stay off, and then they stay in. Russell Wilson does it all the time. When he extends the football, RG3 used to do it. Like, you guys are in a tough spot.
Yeah, if this happens to Cam Newton, we're not having this conversation.
But he also doesn't get hurt.
Welcome back to First Things First. So today's Big East Basketball Media Day, and one coach that's going to get a ton of attention is Villanova's Jay Wright. He led his Wildcats to the Big East Championship last season and that national championship the year before that. We're getting him before anybody else because that's just what we do. Jay Wright, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Much appreciated.
Early in the morning.
It is a little early. We tried to shift the hours, but they wouldn't let us do it. But
you guys are Philly. We count you were in Philly.
Philly.
He's
this guy
great wide receivers.
He can spell Philly.
He's Big East. He's Big East.
Old Big East.
East.
Yep, exactly.
All right,
I'm
so
psyched to be here.
You're here in New York for Media Day. Tons and tons of expectations surrounding your team. Give us set the table a little bit for what you're looking for this season.
A great conference.
To win it all. Thanks for joining us.
And thanks for putting that on us again, like everybody does. But that's something that I think our guys have gotten used to. You know, I think we'll be picked one of the top teams, but that's something for young guys that's a challenge. You know, when you're picked there and you expect to win, how they handle that, right? And you're 18 to 22. It's a little different than when you're a pro, right? And all your students are telling you how good you are. So we've got great leadership. Jalen Brunson, Mikal Bridges, Phil Booth, those guys. If they can lead some of our young guys, we could have a good team.
Go ahead,
just real quick, a follow-up. You know, it's hard. We talked to a pro athlete who has spent years and years on a team, but when you get kids that are 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, if you're lucky 4, do you have to start the season basically having the same, like, here's who I am, you have a couple of veterans, but this is the game plan, basically the philosophical game plan. This is what I expect from you. And you have to have that speech almost every year when they start?
Yeah, we have a philosophy. Every year we start, assume they know nothing.
Yeah.
And just start over from the beginning. And then we wear these humble and hungry just to remind them, like, we have to start this all over again every year. You got to prove yourself every season.
Right.
Because, like you said, you're a kid, you know, and we looked at things, just think about how we all looked at things in college, right? And then I always try to remember that. I was a different dude in college, too. So we have good guys. Our juniors and seniors, we have 4 juniors this year on our team, 4 juniors that will graduate after their junior year and no seniors. So it's a really strange makeup, but good, mature leadership.
So you guys, do you know off the top of your head your record the last 3 years? Do you know? Because it's a nice even number. You're 112. So you're 30-plus wins. It's pretty good. So this is what I've always wondered about how tough it is as a college basketball coach. College football, it's almost the playoffs start week 1. Yeah. Maybe you can lose one game, but it is not, I would imagine, that hard to get players up for games because your season is on the line. Right. If you are a scholarship basketball player at Villanova, you know we're going to be in the tournament. We're going to probably be a high seed in the tournament. You know, if we go 32-4 or 35-5, like, it's not that big of a difference. It's going to matter those 3 weeks in March. Right. How do you get young people, especially, they're all young people, to have focus for each individual game when they know where the season's ending?
That is the great challenge. And what you brought up about college football, so that's why I love college football. I watch those coaches. Like in September, they know. They lose a game in September, they could be done, right? Whereas in college basketball, we know we have time. And then we also have our conference tournaments that you can win. So it is one of the true characteristics of our team that we take the most pride in is bringing it every day. So they're college kids, you know. We want them to every day, we say, be here now. Just concentrate on being the best we can be today. And if you can learn that in basketball, you can do it in life. Like, you guys come into work every day. You gotta bring it every day. So that's probably what we're most proud of with our guys. not what we do in the NCAA tournament, but how our guys bring it every day, and we hope they can bring that into life.
Yeah, college basketball fans very familiar with 3 of the stars that you lost from last year's team: Daryl Reynolds, Josh Hart, Chris Jenkins. They became household names, part of your national championship team. Give us a couple names of people, maybe that we don't know. Guys who are going to fill the void. What you expect from them? Who can get buckets for you? Who's a shutdown guy? Because you utilize guys in a special way in the way that you play, all right? Who are some of these people that we'll be talking about?
I got one great name for you. Dante DiVincenzo.
Yes.
Isn't that a great name, man? Coach Massimino, our legendary coach at Villanova, who just passed away this year, that was his favorite player. Just because he was Italian, Dante DiVincenzo. He didn't have to do anything else. But Dante can get buckets, and he's a tough competitor. He's, I think, ready to come into his own. Eric Pascal is a guy that played for us last year, did a good job. I think he's ready to come into his own. We have a freshman, Omari Spellman, who's a highly touted guy. I think, his work over the summer this year will allow him to really make a name for himself. And you add those to our 3 leaders I talked about, Booth and Mikal Bridges and Jalen Brunson. We need those 6 to be really strong, and then we can fill our young guys in.
Coach, when you take your schedule at the beginning of the year, who are the Big East teams that you circle and you go, okay, that's going to be tough for us? This is the one we have to really get up for.
You know what, Jenna? Honestly, in the Big East, and I know this is this is coach speak, but it's true. In the Big East, once you get into Big East play, it's every game, man. That's the beauty of Big East. It's a basketball conference, right? So you never go to any school that they're a football school, no one's going to show up. Everywhere you go, that's their sport, and they are fired up. The city's fired up. Like, you go out to Creighton. I had never been to Omaha, Nebraska. Yeah. They are tailgating in February. Right. It's like 0 degrees. They're outside before a game, I thought we were the only place that did that in Philly. And they got 18,000. They're a great team. But, St. John's going to be good. They got good young guys. Yeah. Xavier's going to be very good. Everybody knows that. Providence, Creighton. But, you got Georgetown with Patrick Ewing there now. You don't really know what they're going to do because John Thompson played that Princeton style. Patrick's a big boy, and they got some good big boys. They might change their style of play. So we're going to have a great conference. We've had 5 to 6 teams in the NCAA tournament out of 10 every year. So it's truly one of the best conferences in the country.
I want to ask I don't know if it's a bad question, uncomfortable question, whatever it is, but one of the news around college basketball right now is this giant FBI wiretap Adidas scandal. I know you guys aren't an Adidas school, but it seems like it's touched every angle of the college basketball world. What was your reaction when you read the news, or maybe you knew about it maybe ahead of time? And is there a way to clean up, in your eyes, some of this part of college basketball?
You know what, Nick? What was so unique about this was that, and sometimes you hear rumors like this, no one knew anything about this. And number one, about it going on, and then when an FBI, investigation came out, whoa, that was shocking to everybody in college basketball. But, it's a few guys, it's there, it's an issue that we're all going to deal with together. But the game is good, graduation rates are up. College basketball is healthy, but we have to be honest and address this. And we got to clean it up, and I think we will. I think, for me personally, I just think it's the baseball model, the college football guys got to stay 3 years, right?
Correct.
It's so simple. Just let these guys go out of high school, and then develop the G League so that guys that need to make money and don't want to go to college don't have to. They can go to the G League and make some money for their family, and they don't have to make $10 million. They can make $100,000 in the G. That's good money, for a guy coming out of high school. But we're forcing kids to go to college. And then once you do that,
so you're saying, when you said the baseball model, what your proposal would be, let them go out of high school, but if they go to college, they have to stay more than a year?
Yeah, keep it simple. Let guys that are in college play basketball and enjoy being in college for 3 years. If guys don't want to go to college and they're good enough to be professional players, even if they're not NBA players, if they're G League players, if the NBA could invest in a G League a little bit, that they could make a nice living, let those guys go play professional basketball. And then college basketball is authentic. It's guys that want to be in college. And pro basketball is guys that want to be pro basketball players.
It seems very simple, but from a coaching perspective, someone that has the reputation you have, someone that has the coaching pedigree that you do, someone that speaks as well as you, looks the way you look, the way you dress, like, you kind of look like a pro coach. How enticing has it been for you? Or will you always just be a college coach?
I love
Not
the
that
NBA.
there's anything wrong with that.
No, you're making a good living.
I love the NBA. I love watching those games last night. I was so excited the season started last night. But I just love my job. I'm so lucky at Villanova. Jenna, you've been there. You covered us. It's just a great place to live. Our guys, we have 100% graduation rate. Our guys win games. They go to the NBA. It's just, in coaching, it's just such a special spot. I would have to leave it to go to the NBA. I just don't want to leave where I am.
My favorite part about the 2016 championship, honestly, and no disrespect, was that I didn't see it coming. Right, so
I didn't either. I
have no doubt, and
I thought we were going to be good. I didn't see it.
No, here's a quick story. Here's how I knew that you didn't see it coming. Because midway through the season, I called up your department. I was like, hey, can Coach do me a favor? I have a friend of a friend, and the mom is a huge fan. And you took time out and you shot this really nice video, and it was so nice. I'm like, no way these guys are going to win. Like, he's not doing that if these guys are going to. And then what I love about it is that you quietly went on and you just quietly plowed through the season, and you like met every single expectation, and where people had attention on all different big teams and big programs, yours included, I don't think everyone was like, this is the team that is going to take it all the way, and that's how you did it. Do you get a feel a little bit, I mean, can you get a sense of when a season starts that you have something like that intangible that's there?
You know, I wish I could. As a coach, should probably know that. I should probably be able to figure that out. But I have an unrealistic, probably, vision that I always think our teams are going to be great. Yeah. Like, I never think about where we're going to be in terms of national championship, Final 8, Final 4. I just think, can we have a really good Villanova basketball team where we play hard,
if
and we play together.
The right kids, if you put them in the right spot, you believe you have the system, it's the environment, it will cultivate. Like, we're going to be pretty good. How good you're going to be,
you got to play it out.
Okay.
Right? But there's those years where you think, you know what, we're really young, and these guys don't get it yet. They're the years that scare. That's when you can know when you're not going to be good. It's hard to know when you're going to be really that good. Yeah. Right? That's for me.
I don't know what's the more famous image from that championship. The shot, the buzzer beater to win the title, or your stoic walk right after. You have gotten so much credit for how cool you looked. I've believed that you were stunned and in shock, and that tell me if I'm wrong, that it wasn't that, oh yeah, we just won the title, but it hadn't set into you yet. Am I right or wrong?
I think when you told the Italian guy to stitch your suit, you told him to put a little air conditioning in it. I'm walking around, I'm cool as can be.
I honestly, it was corny. With 4.7 seconds, we called timeout. Before that, we had blown a 10-point lead. And one of the biggest characteristics of one of our guys to have is a great attitude. And we practice attitude. And they came off the court after screwing up a 10-point lead, and they were going, attitude, we got this. And I was so proud of them. And we're college coaches, so I think about how's this going to relate to life. I'm thinking, these guys got this. They just blew a 10-point lead in front of millions of people. You know we're going to get killed if we blow this game. And they were just focused on the next play. I was feeling so good about them. I knew we were going to execute. I didn't know we were going to make the shot. So I really didn't, honestly, God, I didn't care if we made or missed the shot. I was so proud of their attitude at that point. That's really what it was.
Coach, I just have to ask you, because I love these two like my brothers.
I can tell. You guys are good.
But if I have to pick the most annoying
Jenna,
thing about them, I do have a brother. And I think I like you more than them. And every day, Jay,
I think I'm the first brother she met. I mean,
I had a question, and now I'm thrown up. Every day, dude, yeah, exactly. I know a lot. Thank you for knowing. I appreciate that. Every day, ooh, I like what you're wearing. I like your suit. No, I like your suit more. Meanwhile, I'm left across the street because they literally left without me and the door closed. What is it? They're obsessed with your clothes. Tell me what it is about your suits.
Because look at them,
maybe you guys need to tell me everything. Ooh, you better ask Jay about his suits, where he got his suits, what's with the suits.
It's trademark.
Gabriel D'Annunzio is our tailor. He's awesome, man.
Who's our? Like, cause they
our team.
Okay,
our team.
I mean, you look amazing, and I think presentation, it's very important. But how you represent yourself, how you represent the university and coaches abroad, like, you're a class act.
Very nice. I appreciate. I'll tell you what. If I had a choice, though, I think basketball coaches should wear sweatsuits on the sideline. That's what I would.
Here too.
Because we're in a huddle. Guys are sweating. We're sweating. They're sweating on top of us. Every suit goes to the cleaner right after the game.
It could be like baseball managers where you guys have to wear the uniform.
That is true. And when you get in your 60s, that's a bad look.
Jim Boeheim wearing a uniform. All right, hold on, real quick. I have to ask you one Kyle Lowry question. Yeah. He's maybe the best Villanova player currently in the NBA. He's an all-star. But the book on Kyle is this was a tough guy now. A guy I think he's talked about that you almost kicked him off the team. You had to threaten him a bunch. Tell us your favorite Kyle Lowry story.
He was a handful, man. But he was a handful everywhere except when you got on the court. This is my favorite Kyle Lowry story. Going into his freshman year, we knew he lived in Philly. I said, Kyle, be on time for orientation, the first day of classes at Villanova when we start. 11 o'clock, he's not there. So I'm like, that's it. He didn't even show up for the first day of school. He's in the hospital. He was playing in a summer league in Philly, tore his ACL. We announced that he's going to redshirt his freshman year because he tore his ACL. He wouldn't go to rehab. He would show up like 2 out of 5 days to rehab. Now, with an ACL, you can't miss that.
No.
He was healthy and ready to play in mid-December after an ACL in the beginning of September and knew every play without ever being out of practice. That's the most amazing. Who has ever come back from 3 months ACL and played his second? After we had a press conference saying he was done, and he knew, I tell our guys every time, he knew every single play. He followed me around in practice, learned everything without doing it. That's a pro, right?
It's amazing. Everything's been pro about Kyle except for his eating habits. He talked to the late-night McDonald's run.
Back then.
Hold on a second.
Now he's got his own
with the
chef.
puck calling the kettle black.
Listen, I'm not a pro athlete. Kyle Lowry was carrying on an extra 10 pounds. He didn't
Clearly.
You guys missed the essence of the story. Orientation's overrated, man. Get me to the court.
Jay, thank you so much for being with us. You're wonderful. Thanks for your stories. We appreciate it. Please come back, and obviously good luck to the start of the season. Thank you for listening to the First Things First podcast. Remember, leave us a review and tell us what you think. Subscribe to the podcast on Apple Podcasts and catch us on FS1 Monday through Friday, 6:30 a.m. Eastern. For Cris Carter and Nick Wright, I'm Jenna Wolfe. So long, everybody.